Today I'm going to be showing you how to sew a V-neck band onto a knit shirt. So I've already sewn my shoulders together on my shirt, and I have my neckband cut out. Here's the pattern piece for it. There's where the fabric is folded, and this is the V. I'm going to start by sewing the V together. So you're going to put right sides, the right side of the fabric to the right side of the fabric, and we're going to sew along here, and then when we get here we're going to pivot, and then we're going to sew here with a 3/8 inch seam allowance. You're going to make sure that your thread is the same color as your fabric so that you don't have the wrong color showing through right in the middle of your shirt. You also want to make sure, since you're sewing with knit fabric, that you're using a stretch needle in your machine. You're just going to have it on a straight stitch. I had it on a zigzag at first. Okay, so using a straight stitch, make sure that you back stitch at the beginning and the end. And here I am. I'm at the V, and I'm going to pivot. So now that I have my V sewn, I'm going to clip right here. But you do not want to clip through your stitches. You just want to clip right up to them. I'm going to use some really sharp scissors so that you can get right there. And now I'm going to press these seam allowances open, and I'm going to press my knit band in half with wrong sides together. Okay, I'm back from the ironing board, and I have pressed my seam allowances down, and I've pressed my neckband all around, and look at that pretty V. But see, you have some of the seam allowances are sticking out, so I'm going to go ahead and just trim them. And now I'm going to mark the back. So I'm going to fold it in half like this. I'm going to take my marker, and I'm going to make a mark right here. This is for later when we're attaching it. We are going to need this to match up with the center of the back. Okay, now that I have that marked, I'm going to take a pin, and I'm going to put it right here. So you're going to make sure that your stitching lines, that they match up as exactly as you can get them. And then stick a pin so that they don't move. Sometimes I even, to help eyeball it, I put the pin through one stitch line and then through the next. And I look and I see, that's not really in there, so we're going to do it again. There we go. And now I'm going to sew a basting stitch at a 1/4 inch seam allowance, just about an inch on that side and an inch on this side. See, it's already moved. Okay. And that's just to keep them together. You want those stitch lines to stay together. This is just a basting stitch. You don't have to back stitch. And as soon as I get to those stitching lines and I have my needle through them, I'm going to pivot. So I put my needle down and I pivot. now I have sewn my basting stitches here. I'm going to set this aside. Now I'm going to pick up my shirt. On my shirt, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to sew basting stitches with a 1/4 inch seam allowance along my bottom V. This is a nice, cotton lycra is a really good fabric to practice your V-necks on because it's a more stable fabric. You see it got a little bunched up, so I'm going to just press it out with my fingers. Okay, now that I have my basting stitches done right there, I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to clip a V through there just like I did. Just like I did on the neckband. So you're going to start in the middle and you're going to clip all the way to your stitches, but do not go through them again, so that you can open that up. So I have my V neckband and it is basted, and I have on my shirt and I have my basting stitches done at a 1/4 inch, and I've clipped through there but not through the seam allowance. And I'm going to take the pretty side of my neckband, so whichever side you want to face out, and you're going to pick. I think I like this side better. So I'm going to put a pin right through where my stitching line meets up with that V right here. Just like I had done whenever I was basting it. And then I'm going to put the side I like down on top of the right side of my shirt. I'm going to put that same pin through right here, through my stitching line where that makes the V on my shirt. You see that? And then I'm going to open up my neckband, and I'm going to clip it. I always prefer clips to pins, but this is the one situation where I do have to use pins, and that's when I'm doing a V-neck. So I'm going to open this up. I'm going to put it like that. You're going to have all this wrinkling right here when you open it, and you're just going to, whichever side you're sewing, we're going to sew this side first. Whichever side you're sewing, you're going to want to move it out of the way. Okay, I'm just going to sew like an inch or two on this side. I'm going to use a 3/8 inch seam allowance now, so I'm going to be stitching right next to my basting stitches. See, that pin likes to come undone. And I'm going to sew up until I get to that V, to where the stitching is in the middle, and I'm going to put my needle down. And now that I have my needle down, I am going to sew the other side. So what I'm going to do is line up the stitches over here, but do you see all this bunching under here? I'm going to raise my presser foot and move some of that fabric out of the way. I'm going to line this up right here. So you're going to see under there that all the excess fabric is on that side. And now we're going to sew with a 3/8 inch seam allowance on this side, just an inch or two up. Okay, this is the moment of truth. It's always scary whenever you look at your V-neck band. But see, it came out my line is pointing right to the middle of the V. You're going to give it a good press after this. Okay, now I have my neckband sewn, just the 1 to 2 inches on each side of it, and I am going to sew it around the rest of the neckline. So we're going to start where we left off, which was that point on the center of the back of the neckband. Let me find it again. That we'd marked earlier. We're going to match it to the center back of the shirt. So I'm going to put my 2 shoulder seams together. I'd already sewn those. And then fold that, and see, there's the back. So I'm going to match those up. You can either put a pin. I prefer clips. I'm going to put a clip right there. And then we're going to stretch our neckband to fit. You can sew this part on your sewing machine, or you can sew it on. I'm going to grab a serger. I like the way this serge seam looks better. So you can tell this neckband, it's 85% of the opening on the shirt, so you're going to have to stretch just a little bit, not a lot. You don't want to overstretch it. But if you don't stretch it enough, your neckband's kind of like floppy. So here's the serger. I start on one end. You don't need it. And remember, when you're applying it, that you do not want to stretch your shirt. You only want to stretch the band, and you're not going to stretch it a ton. You're just stretching it a little bit so that you can match this point in the back. And this seam is being sewn at a 3/8 inch seam allowance. I kind of go only a few at a time on the serger because I like to, if I pinned, I wouldn't have to, but since I don't pin, I kind of sew a few and then reposition it. Make sure when you're sewing, this is going to be the shoulder seam, that the shoulder seam goes towards the back of the shirt. So since this is the front, I'm going to fold that seam down. The serger is nice, it trims off extra seam allowance for you, and it stretches really well with the knit fabric. But if you don't use a serger, it's okay. You can just continue with a stretch stitch on your sewing. And now you have it. You have finished. I'm going to give this shirt a good press. But you have finished your neckline. You can see a little bit of my basting stitches though right here, so I'll remove that part that